I offer my humble pranams at the lotus feet of our dearest beloved Lord Bhagavan Sri Sathya Sai Baba. Dearest respected elders, brothers and sisters, Jai Sai Ram. It gives me great pleasure to announce the Region 7 offering of love to our dearest Bhagavan on this most auspicious occasion of Guru Purnima. Since we could not meet physically as a group, we as a region have collaborated to produce this virtual offering. The program comprised of 2 parts. The first part consists of prayers, devotional songs, SSC play, to name a few items from devotees around the region who have poured their heart out to their Guru. And the second part is a talk by Dr. Mahesh Narayan. So please sit back, relax and enjoy the show. Jai Sai Ram.
गणपतिगुं हवामहे कविं कवीनामुपमश्रवस्तमं ज्येष्ठराजं ब्रह्मणस्पतानः शृण्वन्नोतिभिः सीदसादनं प्रणो देवी सरस्वती वाजेभिर्वाजनीवती दीनामवित्रयवतु गणेशाय नमः सरस्वत्यै नमः श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरि ओम ओम शांति शांति शांति
निधनपतये नमः निधनपतान्तिकाय नमः उद्वाय नमः उद्वलिंगाय नमः हिरण्याय नमः हिरण्यलिंगाय नमः सर्वनाय नमः सर्वनालिंगाय नमः दिव्याय नमः दिव्यलिंगाय नमः भवाय नमः भवलिंगाय नमः सर्वाय नमः सर्वलिंगाय नमः शिवाय नमः शिवलिंगाय नमः ज्वालाय नमः ज्वालालिंगाय नमः आत्माय नमः आत्मलिंगाय नमः परमाय नमः परमलिंगाय नमः एतत् सोमस्य सूर्यस्य सर्वलिंगस्थापयति पाणिमन्त्रं पवित्रं सत्योजातं प्रपद्यामि सत्योजाताय वै नमो नमः भावे भावे नति भावे भवस्वमां भवोद्भवाय नमः वामदेवाय नमो ज्येष्ठाय नमस्तेष्ठाय नमो रुद्राय नमस्काराय नमः करविकरणाय नमो परविकरणाय नमो परबलाय नमो परब्रह्मतनाय नमः सर्वभूतमनाय नमो मदोत्मनाय नमः Agore ebyo, tagore ebyo, gora gora terebyaha, sarve ebyo, sarve ebyo, namaste astaruturlo bebyaha, tatpurushaya vidmahe, mahadevaya dhimahi, tanno rudra prachodayata, ishana sarva vidyanam, ishvara sarva bhutanam, brahmadipati brahmanodipati, Brahma Shivo me astu sada Shivo Namo Hiranyabhave Hiranyavarnaya Hiranyarupaya Hiranyapataye Ambikapataye Amapataye Pashupataye Namo Namaha Kritakam Satyam Param Brahma Purusham Krishna Pinkaram Udvarayatam Vidupaksham Vishwarupaya Vai Namo Namaha Sarvo Vedatrastasmai Rudraya Namo Astu Purusho Vedatrasan Maho Namo Namaha Vishwam Bhutam Bhuvanam Chitram Puhata Jatam Jayamanam Jayate Sarva Hesha Rudrastasmai Rudraya Namo Astu Kadrutraya Prachetase Vidushtamaya Tavyase Fojema Santamagun Hade Sarvo Hesha Rudrastasmai Rudraya Namo Astu Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
I want to be with my Lord, Baba. I want to be with my Lord.
I want to be with my Lord, Baba. I want to be with my Lord.
Do good, be good, so says Sai Baba.
Do good, be good, so says Sai Baba.
Loving all and serving all leads us back to Him.
Loving all and serving all leads us back to Him.
Loving all and serving all leads us back to Him.
Loving all and serving all leads us back to Him.
Jaya Guru Omkara, Jaya Jaya Sadguru Omkara, Om.
Jaya Guru Omkara, Jaya Jaya Sadguru Omkara, Om.
Brahma Vishnu Sada Shiva,
Brahma Vishnu Sada Shiva.
Hara 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 Mahadeva,
Om Hara 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 Mahadeva.
Om Hara 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 Mahadeva.
Om Hara 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 Mahadeva.
I want to be with my Lord, Baba. I want to be with my Lord.
I want to be with my Lord, Baba. I want to be with my Lord.
Do good, be good, so says Sai Baba.
Do good, be good, so says Sai Baba.
Loving all and serving all leads us back to Him.
Loving all and serving all leads us back to Him.
Loving all and serving all leads us back to Him.
Loving all and serving all leads us back to Him.
Jaya Guru Omkara, Jaya Jaya Sadguru Omkara, Om.
Jaya Guru Omkara, Jaya Jaya Sadguru Omkara, Om.
Brahma Vishnu Sada Shiva,
Brahma Vishnu Sada Shiva.
Hara 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 Mahadeva,
Om Hara 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 Mahadeva.
Om Hara 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 Mahadeva.
Om Hara 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 Mahadeva.
I want to be
With my Lord Baba, I want to be with my Lord.
The significance of Guru Purnima. Om Sri Sai Ram, and welcome on this auspicious day of Guru Purnima, a full moon day on which we honor and offer our gratitude to our Guru. According to Bhagavan, today should really be called Vyasa Poornima, after the great Rishi Vyasa, the great teacher who gave many profound and sacred truths to mankind. It was sage Vyasa who arranged the Vedas in their current order for the benefit of all mankind, and for this reason sage Vyasa is also referred to as Veda Vyasa. Purnima refers to a full moon night, and the mind is compared to the moon because it goes back and forth from good to bad, just like the moon waxes and wanes from new moon to full moon. On this Purnima day, with love for God, our minds will shine brightly, cool, and full. Apart from codifying the Vedas, sage Vyasa also wrote the Puranas, composed for mankind the Brahma Sutras, and recorded the Mahabharata epic and the Bhagavad Gita. So on this Guru Purnima, let us reflect on the following questions. What is a guru, and why do we need a guru? How do we use the guru, and what is the correct relationship to the guru? How do we secure the guru's grace? Fortunately for us, Swami has given us guidance on all these questions. So what is a guru? Swami says that the word guru comes from the roots gu and ru. Gu refers to the darkness of ignorance, and ru means removes or dispels. So the true guru is one who removes the darkness of ignorance. So what is this ignorance that's referred to? Well, in part, this is the illusion that true and lasting happiness can be obtained from this transient, impermanent world. Swami gives another meaning for guru. He says gu comes from gunatita, one who is beyond the three gunas, and ru comes from rupa vajita, meaning one who is beyond form and has grasped the formless aspect of the Godhead. So these are the qualities in a guru. Swami also says that the guru is the one who takes us to the guri, or the goal. So what should be our relationship to the guru? So Swami says, once you have secured a guru, leave everything to him, even the desire to achieve liberation. He knows you more than you yourself ever can. He will direct you as much as is good for you. Your duty is only to obey and to smother the tendency to drift away from him. Bhagavan goes on to say, give the Guru your mind as you would entrust gold to a goldsmith. The Guru may need to melt, mould or beat your mind, but do not worry, as he will return to you a precious jewel. Do not say, Swami, give me peace, but don't give me pain, as Swami may need to inflict pain before the process of purification is completed. To secure the Guru's grace requires some effort on our part. Swami has given the formula for the spiritual life. 75% effort and 25% grace. So what is devotion to the Guru? Surely devotion to the Guru is devotion to his teachings. Swami says that the command of the Guru or the Lord is even more important than the name of the Guru or the name of the Lord. He goes on to say, of what use is repetition of the name without at the same time purifying the impulses by the observance of his commands? So how do we earn the grace of the Guru? Swami tells the story of the great spiritual teacher Sri Shankaracharya, who had a number of disciples, of whom 13 were considered important. Of these, 4 were the closest to the master. Now the first 3 disciples chose to study the scriptures under their guru, but the last one said that he would be most happy just serving the guru. Shankara asked this disciple what service he wanted to perform, and the disciple replied that he wanted to wash the guru's clothes and have them ready for the guru each day. The other 3 disciples would ridicule him for choosing only service to the guru while they were learning the great scriptures. But this 4th disciple was not at all bothered by that. Every day he used to take the guru's clothes to the middle of the river so that they could be washed in the purest water available. One day there was a flood and he was caught in the middle of the river. He was not worried about losing his life, but he was greatly concerned about getting the clothes to his guru in time. He began rushing across the river, which was now in spate. Swami narrates that wherever this disciple placed his foot, a stone lotus sprang up. Thus, this disciple got the name of Padmapada. When he brought the clothes to the Guru was so pleased with the disciple's devotion that he showered his grace on him, and immediately Padmapada became a great scholar. This is the greatness of service to the Guru and the grace it can invoke from him. To obtain this grace, Swami says, when you are given some work, you should put your heart and soul into it and do the work with the utmost sincerity and dedication to the limit of your capacity. We end with Swami's words about the goal of life. When the road ends and the goal is gained, the pilgrim finds that he has only travelled from himself to himself, that the way was long and lonesome, but the God that led him unto it was all the while in him, around him, and beside him. He himself was always divine. His yearning to merge with God was but the sea calling to the ocean. Man loves because he is love. He craves for melody and harmony because he is melody and harmony. He seeks joy, for he is joy. He thirsts for God, for he is composed of God and cannot exist without him. Sai Ram.
Ram Ram Sai Rama, Karti Purisha Sai Rama, Ram Ram Sai Rama, Madhura Manohar Sundar Naam, Shamal Komal Nayan Viram, Ravi Kula Mandan Rajan Rama, Param Pavana Mangaladhar, Param Pavana Mangaladhar, Ram Ram Sai Rama. Shivaya Namah Shivalingaya Namah Bhavaya Namah Bhavalingaya Namah Sarvaya Namah Sarvalingaya Namah Rudraya Namah Rudralingaya Namah Atmane Namah Atmalingaya Namah Namo 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 Shivaya Namah Shivalingaya Namah Bhavaya Namah Bhavalingaya Namah Sarvaya Namah Sarvalingaya Namah Rudraya Namah Rudralingaya Namah Atmane Namah Atmalingaya Namah Namo 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 Shivaya Namah Shivalingaya Namah.
Lesson on self-reliance based on Swami's life. Imagine the scene. We are outside a small shop selling stationery in a village near Puttaparthi. The young boy Satya is standing outside the shop with some of his school friends, Anish, Simran and Varun. Satya and some of his friends enter the stationery shop.
Excuse me, sir. My fellow students are in need of slates and pencils for their studies.
I can get these for you, but these children can't pay for the slates and pencils as they don't have any money.
Don't worry. Please order them. My friends will earn the money in small amounts.
The shopkeeper, who knows of Satya's outstanding character, is happy to obtain the slates and pencils for the children.
We have to pay for these slates and pencils. What can we do?
We could grow some vegetables. There's a small clear patch of land near our house.
That's a great idea. Anish and Simran, what could you do?
What about these tamarind trees by the roadside? To whom do they belong?
roadside trees are not anyone's property and belong to God, so you are free to make use of this gift of God. So we could collect some tamarind from these trees and sell them. My mummy makes yummy tamarind chutney. So there's another good idea. To sell tamarind and make money.
Every week, all of Satya's friends go to the Sunday market and sell freshly grown vegetables and tamarind. They go back to the shopkeeper each week with the money they have earned, until eventually... Sir, we've got all the money for our slates and pencils. In this way, every week they managed to pay the shopkeeper a small amount, and in a month's time they had paid him all the money. Even afterwards, on Satya's advice, they started growing papayas. As a result, they could earn half a rupee or 1 rupee per month. In this way, right from childhood, Swami taught people to be self-reliant, to earn their living, and to practice good habits, like speaking the truth and honouring their promises. Thank you for listening. Om Shri Sai Ram.
भक्तवत्सल तिरुनाम साई दुःखभंजन तिरुनाम साई तुम संग बांधे प्रेम की डोरी सुमिरन करो तेरु नाम साई पतितो दारण भक्त परायण परतीश्वर साई राम परतीश्वर साई राम भक्तवत्सल तेरु नाम साई.
Jai Sai Ram. My humble pranams at the divine lotus feet of our beloved Lord Bhagwan Sri Satya Sai Baba. Dear devotees, during this time of pandemic, it has been quite a stressful time for all of us. With His divine grace and blessings, I have been thinking about the word pandemic and what it means. And with His kind blessings, these are some other thoughts that came through which I'd like to share with all of you. Looking at the word pandemic, the first letter is P. P would stand for that we should always practice, practice, practice. It's very important we practice. P also means we should pray always. It's important to pray not only for ourselves, but to all our friends, family, and the country and the world as a whole. We must always be pure in our thoughts and learn to have patience. The God will respond in all times. It is also important during this time always to be polite. The A stands for actions. Always keep all your activities going, and you always have to be positive. Activities like exercising, walking, jogging, and all those exercises. It is also important not to agitate the mind and not to be angry. Moving on, the letter N would stand for never give up. We must learn to neglect all the small failures and move on. It is important we normalize our body and mind. D would then stand for that we don't lose hope. We have to be determined to do our best, and we have to, during these times, develop good habits and good skills. Moving on to E. E would be to evolve within ourselves. That means to energize, and we must learn to exercise all parts of our body and mind. Through this means we will learn to experiment, and eventually we will learn to explore ourselves. Moving on, then we come to the letter M. M stands for to meditate. It is important that we learn to meditate during these hard times. One of the main ways to meditate would be to listen to calm and soothing music, and to think of all the good memories and to motivate ourselves. And so you can see there are millions of ways and possibilities we can go about doing this. Then moving on to the next letter I. I means to illuminate. Illuminate yourself and others. It is important. By this we should mean that we should not talk ill of others, and we should identify ourselves internally and externally. It is important. We can do this by involving ourselves in all the good things that we do. Finally, moving on to letter C, it is important to carry on always. Also, it is important to be conscious always. We do this by having a clear mind, and we should learn to correct all our mistakes and control our bad habits and control our senses. We learn to do this by continually assessing ourselves. And as we do this, finally, the C in the pandemic would be that we become champions that we always were. So I hope, brothers and sisters, that this helps you during this pandemic period to realize that the word pandemic can have a new meaning. My blessings and guidance to all of you, and prayers to all of you that during these hard times you may learn to practice all these things and become healthy people and learn to pray, and let us all be positive and live a very peaceful and happy life. I hope the Divine Lord blesses all of us and showers His gracious blessings on all of us. Jai Sai Ram.
Om Bhurvasvaha Taksaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yona Prachodaya. Om Sai Ram.
Fellow citizens of our beautiful planet, Please accept this prayer as a gift, not only for yourself, but also to share with the rest of the human family. Now, more than ever, we need to band together in one common purpose and look to the heavens. The more people who pray with steady faith and pure-hearted intentions, the greater will be the divine realm's response. Only by praying will we remove this scourge and avert the crisis that is now upon us. Only by forming a partnership with the divine through prayer will we see the blossoming of human consciousness. And only then will mankind begin to fulfill its destiny and divine human potential. Please join in the coronavirus prayer. Creator of all that is, each and every day, remove or render harmless all dangerous viruses from myself, my loved ones, and then from all infected beings and the earth as a whole. Apply this prayer again and again as needed to keep everyone safe and restore well-being to the afflicted. We should go on praying for the welfare and upliftment of all beings. There can be no greater act of love than this. May all the beings in all the worlds be blessed with love, peace and happiness, each and every moment of each and every day.
I'm humbled and privileged to be able to welcome our guest speaker for today, Dr. Mahesh Narayan. He is a very familiar face in the UK. By profession, he is an ENT surgeon, but most importantly, he's been involved with SSE in the UK for the past 30 years. So please welcome Dr. Narayan.
Om Shri Sai Ram. My loving and prayerful salutations at the lotus feet of our beloved loving God. Respected elders, brothers and sisters, Sai Ram. Wish you a very happy Guru Poornima. I've been sitting here enjoying the program so far from Region 7 and paying particular attention to all the talks. Today is Guru Poornima, and as Brother Jay mentioned, it is Vyasa Poornima, honoring Veda Vyasa. Brother Jay also mentioned one of the definitions for the word Guru, one who removes the darkness of ignorance. Swami has given yet another beautiful definition. And Swami said, Gu is Gunatita, one who is beyond the attributes. And then Ru is Rupa Varjita, one who is without form. And the only person who fits this definition of Guru is the Lord himself. God is beyond our attributes and he is without form. So God alone is the true Guru. Since the description about Guru has been dealt with extensively, it might be an idea for us to see what the other side of the picture is. Nobody is a Guru without a disciple or a Shishya. So what is a Shishya defined as per the scripture? The very first definition was Shikshate iti Shishyaha. That is one who is taught by the Guru. He is a Shishya. Now, there are two other definitions that were there in the scriptures. One is Shishyat Vishishyate, Shastradi Parigyanena, Bahirmukha Apeksha iti Shishyaha. That is, one who has improved by virtue of study of the Shastras and other texts, who is becoming less extroverted, that is, his senses are not going outwards, but they are going inwards, and he is focusing inwards. He who has improved as well is a Shishya. Now, the final definition fits in very beautifully with the letter C from the acronym of pandemic given by the brother. Indriyadi pravrittim shikshayati iti shishyaha. That is, one who controls and curbs the activities of one's own sense organs and body, etc., and mind, of course. He is a Shishya. It's very easy for us to say Swami is the Guru, which we all do, and we are all Shishyas. You know, Swami very clearly stated in his letter to his brother in 1947, that he has a definition for the word devotee. And he gives the explanation, which is very much in keeping with chapter 12 of Bhagavad Gita, where the Lord tells you what sort of a devotee is dear to him. And Swami says, devotee is one who accepts failure and success, victory and defeat, profit and loss, all with equal mindedness. Yo me bhaktaha same priyaha, the Bhagavad Gita says. Similarly, what does Swami expect of his students? What are the do's and the don'ts? I'll go into a story. This is something that happened in Trai. Trai Vrindavan is the residence abode of Swami in Bangalore and Whitefield. And there were these special Trai sessions in the evenings where some of the devotees and the alumni, the students from Swami's Institute of Higher Learning, and guests who are invited can go in to the residence. And it is an absolutely magical session. It's like a large interview. And Swami would usually ask one of the eminent speakers to speak. And then, of course, Swami would give a discourse. And it used to be an absolutely beautiful session, blissful session. So on this particular occasion, Swami asked a very eminent lady to give a talk. And during the talk, the lady referred to her son. And she said, my son who was a student, a Sai student. And Swami just shook his head and said, no. She carried on talking, didn't pay any attention to what Swami had said. And again, she used the same phrase. Again, Swami said no. The third time, the lady repeated this. Swami stopped her and said, just because he studied here in Swami's institution, it does not make him a student. There is a certain decorum, a certain way of behavior that Swami expects before we call ourselves his students. And that applies to every one of us. A guru doesn't just come like that. It is, and that too, for people like us who are so blessed to have the good Lord, the great Lord himself as our guru or our teacher, there is a certain expectation. Likewise, Shirdi Baba says that there was 2 paisa fees that one had to pay, which is Guru Dakshina. And Shirdi Baba very beautifully says, I wondered what did my guru who had no worldly desires want 2 paise, worldly paise. But the 2 paise being Shraddha, faith, and Saburi, patience. Those are the 2 things that we give the guru by virtue of our fees. Then Swami goes on to say that there are 5 A's that are totally unacceptable from a Shishya. And the 5 A's being alakshyam, that is negligence. You know, the attitude of whatever. Alakshyam, avinayam, lack of humility, disobedience, avinayam. Ahamkaram, that is ego. Asuyam, or jealousy. And then asabhyata, lack of social decorum. And no matter how bright the student may be, these are totally unacceptable to the guru. And Swami narrated the story on more than one occasion about Yagnavalkya. Now, the foremost of sage Vedavyasa's disciples was Vaishampayana. Vaishampayana is the one who is given the custodianship of the Yajurveda. Those who read the Vishnu Sahasranamam have come across this name. Sri Vaishampayana Uvacha, Shrutva Dharmana Sheshena Pavanani Cha Sarvasha, and so on. Now, this sage Vaishampayana got a very brilliant, very highly intelligent student called Yagnavalkya. We've all heard about Yagnavalkya, but Yagnavalkya was so incredibly brilliant that everybody around him was saying, oh, aren't you so intelligent? And that does do harm to people's egos. Unfortunately, he got a bit egotistical with that. Along with the ahamkaram, came alaksham, neglect of the guru's instructions. And finally, there was a lack of social decorum, asabhyata. At this point, in spite of his brilliance and intellectual capacity, the guru, Vaishampayana, calls Yagnavalkya and says, you are not fit to be my disciple. Give me back what you learned from me. So the story goes on. Of course, Swami says he vomited out all that he had learned from the guru, and that rendition of Yajurveda that he had learned is called the Krishna Yajurveda. That was the vomit was eaten by Titri birds, and that knowledge is what the Taittiriya Upanishad is. Now, Yagnavalkya repents seriously, and then he does penance, and then he gets the blessings of the sun god, and he gets another version of the Yajurveda, which is the Aditya Jnana, which is called the Shukla Yajurveda. So there are 2 traditions in the Yajurveda. The Rudram that we chant is from the Krishna Yajurveda. That is one that he had to return back to his guru. So that is the 5 A's that are not Akara, Panchak, Arishta, Swami says. The 5 A's that are totally unacceptable from a student. Now, to go on a more personal note, when I freshly graduated as a doctor, and Swami called me for an interview. It was a very privileged, blessed moment. And Swami said to me, you've always heard Swami say this. He said, the 4 Fs: follow the master, face the devil, fight till the end, and finish the game. He then said, follow the master. Who is the master? And looked at me. I thought I was very clever. And I looked at Swami and said, you, Swami. Swami shook his head and said, no. Your own conscience is the master. Remember, always follow your conscience. Then Swami went on to say, you have the knowledge. Now you have to convert it into skill. Don't kill the knowledge. For years, I thought Swami was referring to medical knowledge, and I have to convert it into skill because I'm a surgeon by profession, as Mahendra Bhai introduced me. Later on, finally, it entered this thick skull that was not just medical or secular knowledge that the Lord was talking about. He was talking about all knowledge, including the scriptural knowledge, the spiritual knowledge that we learn of. All that Swami has said, and we are so comfortable saying, oh, but Swami said, and this is what Swami said. But do we practice it? Have we converted it into skill? Swami says, chaduvi, by reading, constant reading, you are making your mastakam into a pustakam, your head into a book. Instead, for heaven's sake, put it into practice. So follow the master, face the devil, fight till the end, and finish the game. He also said, don't kill knowledge. And then he said, how do you kill knowledge? By seeing evil, doing evil, hearing evil, speaking evil, and thinking evil. So he said, think no evil, think only good. See no evil, see only good. Speak no evil, speak only good. Hear no evil, hear only good. Do no evil, do only good. This is the way to get a pure mind, purity of thought, word, and deed. That is the way to keep knowledge going, alive, and not dying. Swami is constantly teaching us. He is the indwelling Guru. He is alive. God always is. There is no past tense. So if anybody is trying to correct my grammar to say, why is this man saying about Swami in the present tense? Swami always is. He is God. So I had a consultant when I was a senior house officer in Scotland about 25 years ago, just over that. And this gentleman, some of you might even know his son. His son is in Manchester. The son is one of my Balvika students, or SSC students. His father was Mr. Thampi, an ENT surgeon. Wonderful gentleman. He narrated how they came to Swami. He himself came to Swami as a school student. He was in the southernmost tip of India. The place is called Kanyakumari, and that district. And he said he did not know Swami. He had never seen Swami at that point of time. But everybody in the area heard that Bhagwan Sri Satya Sai Baba is visiting Kanyakumari. And when he was not just visiting, he was going to the house of a devotee of Swami's. And that devotee, Mr. Thampi mentioned, was a really unsavory character. Let's put it that way. Mr. Thampi's description was he had every bad habit that you could mention. And so obviously, when you see God coming to somebody like that's house, you'd say, is he really God? Why should he go to that dirty fellow's house? That evening, while Mr. Thampi was going back from school in the school bus, it so happened that the school bus broke down in front of that particular man's house where Swami was going to visit. So the children were all stuck. They were waiting for the bus to be repaired or a substitute bus to come and take them home when the people in the house, the organizers of this event, called these children in, gave them refreshments, asked them to sit down, and just then Bhagwan Swami also arrived to the house. And Mr. Thampi's description of this gentleman's behavior, he said, here is a man who had every bad habit. You name it and he had it. Suddenly we see him in front of Bhagwan Sri Sathya Sai Baba, and he's behaving so well. He's so humble suddenly. And, you would think butter wouldn't melt in his mouth. He comes to Swami and, he is so, so, so humble. Swami also blessed the man. Then Swami came up to these children and looked particularly at Mr. Thampi, who had had this thought. And then Swami, and by this time, Mr. Thampi was wonderstruck that this horrible man had behaved so well. And he said, definitely there must be something to this Sai Baba. And Swami looked at him with a mischievous smile and said, you learn something new every day, don't you? And that is what our Guru does. He teaches us something new every day through forces of nature, even, through things that we see. Swami has said, nature is the greatest preacher. And, Swami talks about Dakshinamurti. I'll show you a little statue which is supposed to be a depiction of Dakshinamurti. And this is Swami narration. He says Dakshinamurti, some people say, had 24 gurus, some people say 48. And Swami narrated an incident where Dakshinamurti goes to the seashore. And whilst he is on the seashore, a piece of straw goes into the sea water, and the sea pushes it right back. It goes back into the water. The sea comes back again and throws it back. So Dakshinamurti goes into deep thought, and he says, why can't this vast ocean accept a little bit of dirt, like that little piece of straw? And then suddenly it dawns upon him that if this ocean was to accept little bit of dirt all the time, it will end up getting full to the brim with dirt. So it refuses to take even a little bit. And then he says, I have learned something from the ocean today. Ocean is one of my gurus. I've learned something from the ocean today because I shouldn't accept even a little bit of dirt to come into my mind. The moment a thought comes that is not proper, throw it away. Say, this is not befitting me. So that, likewise, we learn all the time from nature and forces of nature. Another story I'd like to share is that, as I said, God always is. Swami is not in past tense. This is a personal story. I think it was in 2008, we started doing our Rudram homams in UK. The very first one was done at the Merton Temple, and the second one was done in Leicester, in a huge church hall. Now, for some reason, the good Lord knows, I was asked to speak at this event. And it was a case of panic stations because I'm not exactly a Vedic scholar. Just because I can chant a few suktams doesn't make me a Vedic Pandit. So I was saying, oh my God, what am I going to say? Please, Swami, help me. Of course, I tried reading up Swami's discourses on Vedam. There's a whole book of that. There are other books on the Vedas. Tried reading them, something about the theory, but I still felt totally inadequate. Kept praying intensely, Swami, please guide me what to say. Just as we were reaching the venue of the Rudram, my host, who was driving me, he asked me a question. He said, Mahesh bhai, tell me something. Do ladies not chant Vedas? My blood pressure shot up at this point of time, and I said, what nonsense. women have every right to chant the Vedas. And, the Vedas themselves have about 27 lady rishis. Gargi, Ghosha, Maitreyi, Upala. These are all rishis who are women. So who says women are not allowed to chant? Gayatri is a divine goddess. Saraswati, goddess of wisdom and learning, is a goddess. We don't attribute it to a male form. So, of course, women are allowed to chant. And then by then it was time to go in, and the chanting started. I was asked to speak, and I was still mulling over this conversation. So when I had to give the talk, I said to the audience, if somebody tells you that women are not to chant the Vedas, remove your chappal, that is your slippers, and slipper them. And if you're worried about getting the bad karma, then pass it on to me, I said. Now, I know there were people in the audience who come from a very traditional, orthodox, as they call it, background, who did not like what I said. Some of them voiced their opposition as well. I couldn't be bothered. When we left for home, thankfully I have a wife who's very honest and tells me exactly what she thinks. So she told me that I was very harsh and in my comment, and I probably shouldn't have used that expression of taking the slipper and hitting them. I said, never mind. My conscience is clear. Swami has said, follow your master, who's your conscience. My conscience is clear. I'm not going to get upset about it. Years rolled on. As you know, 2011, Swami took the Mahasamadhi, and I've been, by his grace, blessed to go and work in the general hospital in Puttaparthi every year. So it was one such trip. This was post Mahasamadhi. One such trip, I was going to Prashanthi Nilayam to work. Vidyu hadn't come along. She was staying back in UK. And whilst on the flight, suddenly this incident came back to my memory. And I remembered having said, take your slipper and hit people if they say that ladies are not to chant the Veda. And then at this point of time, I was just thinking of Swami, and I said, Swami, do you think I was too harsh? Because Vidyu said I was very harsh. Do you think I was too harsh? That was all my thought. Next day, early hours, I reached Puttaparthi. I reported for work straight away. And in the evening, I would usually go for darshan with a book. In the interim period, when you are waiting, you have time to read. So I took a book of Satya Sai Speaks, Swami's discourses, and so happened, read a discourse where Swami talks about his childhood. And as you know, Swami's mother was Ishwaramma, but the neighbor lady, Karnam Subbamma, was a very holy, good lady, very pious lady, who was a bit like Yashoda was to Lord Krishna. She was like a foster mom to our Swami. And this Karnam Subbamma's husband, who was a very wealthy man, was given to certain bad ways. And Swami is narrating that episode, and Swami says, this lady, Karnam Subbamma, came up to Swami and said, Swami, can you not somehow correct him? My husband is given to bad ways. So, of course, Swami immediately took up the task. When a devotee comes and surrenders, the Lord just takes over. And he straight away coached his band of friends, the Pandhari Bhajan group that they were, his little friends. Swami used to compose poems straight away. And so Swami composed a little poem where he's telling Karnam Subbamma's husband that if you do these sort of things, if you indulge in this sort of activity, not only you will get a bad name, but people will remove their slippers and hit you. They'll take their chappals and hit you. So I was delighted when I read this. And then Swami goes on to narrate that at this point, Karnam Subbamma herself is a bit embarrassed that Swami has used this harsh expression about taking the slipper and hitting, and says, Swami, Satya, isn't it too harsh that you're talking about removing the slippers and hitting? And Swami says, no, sometimes you have to use language like that for people to understand. It's like we say in Hindi, Lato ke bhoot, baaton se nahi mante. The ghost that needs to be kicked to teach it a lesson will not get assuaged just by us talking to it. Sometimes you need to kick as well. Sometimes you need to use harsh language, and the guru does that. So I was quite delighted because here I was exonerated. The reason I started narrating this story was, you may think Swami is not there anymore in the physical form. The guru is not there. Whom are we going to get our guidance from? But this guru of ours is always is. You would notice you have to just open a Satya Sai Speaks or a Summer Showers in Vrindavan or one of the Vahinis, and you will find answers to every single question. There is no topic that Swami has not spoken about or given explicit instructions on. There are a lot of people who say, oh, Swami says something, it can be interpreted like this, it can be interpreted like that. I think they are muddled souls themselves. Swami is very precise and very clear. If we are ready to receive that message, he will give it to us in a clear, concise manner so that we can understand. And that is something we have to remember. I told you the story about the Chappal, the Rudram story. This was very much post Mahasamadhi. As I said, I got the answer. To this day, I find the moment I have a spiritual doubt, he is always there to answer it. Or you switch on Radio Sai, and then you have a discourse where Swami is giving you exactly, precisely that answer to your question. This is not just my experience, it's the experience of most people who are seekers. Of course, the one thing that we need to know is that, are we willing to listen to what he is saying? Are we willing to take on board? Are we willing to convert this knowledge into skill? And if we are, then the good Lord is there constantly giving us more and more and more. Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa describes how the Divine Mother is constantly giving the knowledge and wisdom, a bit like happens in a grocer's shop, and the grain keeps coming as the customer keeps taking more and more. Until the customer says, I've had enough, the shopkeeper will keep supplying the grain. Like that, the Divine Mother, the Divine Guru is constantly willing to shower this benediction upon us. And he gives all the knowledge, all the wisdom to those of us who want to learn. He is, above all, God himself. So I think the one thing we have to do is to try and be worthy students. It's all very well to call him our guru. Does he call us his shishya? Swami has said, it's not so important that you say you're a devotee of God. Does God say you are my devotee? It's not enough if you say, I love you, God. Does God say, I love you? That, likewise, it's not enough if we say, he is our guru. Does he say, you are my student? And the day he says that, we are totally safe. There is one more thing I would like to say in this. And this is an imagery or allegory that Swami has given, and Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa also has spoken about in the 19th century. He says, if you are thirsty, you dig in one place. You dig in one place so that you strike water. You dig a well in one place. You don't go around digging in several spots and say just a bit and say, oh, I didn't get any water, then move on to another place, dig a bit and say, oh, I didn't. You will end up with a field full of potholes, but not a well. Once you have come to the Guru, you have accepted him as your Guru, then stay put. Don't jump from one Guru to another. Oh, we had one Guru, then now we have a new Guru. No. Dviguru nashto shishya. You have more than one Guru, the Shishya is destroyed. Each is going to take us to the goal. Whoever your Guru is will take you to the goal. Just stick to one path, one Guru. For us, as I said before, we have been very fortunate. We have the great Lord Himself as our Guru. He came down on earth. I shouldn't say use the word came down, from a higher consciousness to low. He took on a human form, which was so beloved to all of us, which is so beloved to us. And He has accepted us into His fold. Let us stick to Him. Stay put. Be firm. Give Him that Shraddha, the faith, and the Saburi, the patience. The two pies say that we give the Guru, as Shirdi Baba said. Wish you all a very, very happy Guru Poornima. I know I can go on talking forever, especially when it comes to talking about Swami and Swami stories, but I think the time is running short. Saira.
Wow, what an amazing array of performances. I hope you enjoyed our program, including the talk by Dr. Mahesh Narayan. Mahesh Bhai, I always like hearing about your interactions with our dear Bhagwan and with the humour that you bring with it, not forgetting the important messages that they contain for all of us. I would also like to thank all those devotees who contributed with their various offerings, and also a huge thanks to the Region 7 team for putting this program together, and finally to Swami for giving us this opportunity. This concludes the Region 7 program for Guru Purnima. Jai Sai Ram.
जय जगदीश हरे स्वामी सत्य साई हरे भक्त जना संरक्षक भक्त जना संरक्षक प्रति महेश्वर ओम जय जगदीश हरे शशि वदना श्रीकरा सर्वा प्राणपते स्वामी सर्वा प्राणपते आश्रित कल्पलतिका आश्रित कल्पलतिका आपदान्धवा ओम जय जगदीश हरे मात पिता गुरुदैवं मरियन्तयु नीवे स्वामी मरियन्तयु नीवे नाद ब्रह्म जगन्नाथ नाद ब्रह्म जगन्नाथ नागेन्द्राशयन ओम जय जगदीश हरे ओंकार रूप ओजस्वी साई महादेवा सत्य साई महादेवा मंगल हारति अंधको मंगल हारति अंधको मंदर गिरिधारी ओम जय जगदीश हरे नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण 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 ओम नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण नारायण ओम जय सद्गुरुदेवा नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण 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 ओम नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण नारायण ओम जय सद्गुरुदेवा नारायण Narayana Narayana Om Narayana Narayana Om Satya Narayana Narayana Om Satya Narayana Narayana Om Jai Sadeva Shanti 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 Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu Shanti Shanti